Over the past few months, I've been raising policy issues which I believe are crucially important for the future of our country. This is my job as a member of parliament. Moreover, it is my duty as a conservative member of parliament to contribute to debates and offer policy solutions from a conservative perspective. Otherwise, what is the point of being involved in politics? I am in politics to defend ideas, real conservative ideas, because I passionately care about the future of our country.
I think it's important to recognize that we're in a world right now where these discussions, this polarization, this fear of the other has become easy currency for politicians who do want to strike up uncertainty in people's hearts and lift those anxieties and try to get people to vote against things.
So Canada remains committed to the Paris Agreement, making major reductions to carbon emissions by 2030. The carbon tax, part of that overall effort.
What's becoming clear is that this government does not have a climate plan. Their plan has failed to reach a single solitary greenhouse gas emission target.
Now it's not the birth rate, but immigration driving up the population, with a record 1 million newcomers landing last year, and millions on the way in the years ahead.
World leaders, corporate giants, top academics, they're all coming together in Davos, Switzerland today.
Trust into our institutions and particularly trust in our capability to shape a better future.
Your gender is not dependent on what parts you were born with, but rather what you feel like in the moment. Where some public schools and libraries invite drag queens, some dress like torn demons, to read to young children.
After a couple of minutes of this debate tonight, I think people can clearly see why I didn't think you should deserve a platform.
For too long, Canadian politics has been hijacked by interest groups, cartels, lobbies, international organizations, corporate and union interests, and the interest of politicians and bureaucrats in Ottawa who are disconnected from ordinary citizens. We see it in the way the old parties try to attract voters and support, not by offering solutions that appeal to all Canadians, but by pandering to various groups and dividing Canadians into little tribes that can be bought with promises, privileges, and taxpayers' money. Nobody speaks for Canadians. Nobody speaks for the people.
The billboards have popped up along highways across Canada. Say no to mass immigration, vote People's Party. Launching his campaign from his Quebec riding today, Maxime Bernier defended the billboards.
We want fewer immigrants, a maximum of 150,000 a year. And, we're not for mass immigration. We are the only principled alternative. We are speaking the truth about the real issues that we have in this country, immigration, taxation, that's important. And let's have these debates in this country, that's important. Canadians want that. And now is the time! The greatest threat to our freedoms in our lifetimes arrived in the form of tyrannical lockdowns, mandates, and ostracization of normal Canadians by corrupt governments across the country. We were not deterred. For 2 years, we protested across the country and fought back. Even in the middle of the darkness, we held on to our hope and faith. The largest human rights protest Canada has ever seen. The most inspiring act of civil disobedience I have ever experienced. After 2 years of government tyranny, of lockdowns and travel bans, of curfews and stay-at-home orders, of government pitting families and friends against each other, of propaganda and psychological manipulation, brave Canadian truckers started a movement that would wake up a nation and inspire the world. Starting from the west and then the east, they made their way to Ottawa. The line of trucks and cars grew as they passed through each city and province. Patriotic Canadians gathered on highway overpasses, waving flags and raising homemade signs. 13 months ago, they began to arrive in Ottawa. The career politicians that walked the halls of Parliament were reminded that these buildings, this country, belong to us. They were reminded that Canadians are not just serfs paying taxes to support their insane globalist projects. We are a proud people, not to be treated like cogs in some broken machine. Trudeau smeared the protesters as racist and misogynist. The fake news media painted it as an occupation. They claimed the citizens of downtown Ottawa were being terrorized and lied about protesters committing arson and other crimes. But I was there in person. I experienced it firsthand. And I can tell you, it was the most beautiful, peaceful, and patriotic event I have ever seen. After 2 years of misery and discrimination, of being separated from friends and family, there was a special sense of love and togetherness in the streets of Ottawa. People were proud to be Canadian again. But just as pride and patriotism was resurging in Canada, Justin Trudeau stumped it out like a campfire at the end of the night. Trudeau gave himself unprecedented powers meant to protect Canadians at times of war. He weaponized the financial system, shutting down fundraisers and freezing people's bank accounts without due process. Stormtroopers took to the streets, shooting journalists with tear gas and trampling people with horses. We were reminded the tyrants are still in control. Even the Freedom Convoy was violently crushed, it was still a brilliant success. Public opinion had turned. Provincial government started to quietly drop mandates and restrictions. In the years since the convoy, the political establishment has done everything they can to sap the momentum out of this populist uprising. They've used every tool in their arsenal. The corporate media are still vilifying protesters and preventing the other side of the story from being told. The courts have delayed important cases or refused to hear them. Trudeau made a mockery of the inquiry, appointing a former Liberal staffer as commissioner. Many Canadians that had woken up have been lulled back to sleep. We must not forget about what the tyrannical Liberals did to us, what the NDP and the Bloc Québécois enabled, what the Conservatives failed to oppose. We must recapture the fervor and passion of the Freedom Convoy and start fighting now to make change in the next election.
Across Canada, this has been a day of protest, counter-protest, and even some confrontations over sex ed and LGBTQ rights.
To insinuate that we might actually be spending time indoctrinating them is absolutely ridiculous. You know, we don't have time for this. We just want our children to be, safe, loved, cared for. And if there is a situation where a child is in danger because of their sexuality or because of their gender identity, then it is our job under the Charter of Rights to keep them safe.
at the end of the day, we want to have a discussion. We want to establish a dialogue and say, listen, whatever's being taught to our kids, parents should have a right to know about that. It shouldn't take the strong arm of the government to have to come in and kind of force these things through. I think it's great that the education minister has made overtures towards that, and I would hope that both sides can get together and recognize that parents should be the final arbiters of what your children are learning in the classroom.
You know, we are the People's Party. We are working for the people, and that's why I'm here. I'm here with the people, and we share the same cause, the same values, and the message is very clear today. Leave our kids alone. That's a simple message. What is happening in our school is not education anymore, it's indoctrination. We need to stop that. So, as you said, I'm a politician at the federal level. What can we do at the federal level? We can do a lot. Because, as you may know, the Trudeau government is funding a lot of independent associations, radical associations that are promoting that radical trans ideology. We can see how far we've come as a movement. We have shown resilience and strength. Our journey has been marked by determination and unwavering spirit. Today, we are confronted by many challenges. Our economy must be revitalized, our freedoms must be protected, and we must end mass immigration. It is imperative that we address these issues head-on with courage and conviction. We are embarking a new chapter in our history. I call upon every member of the People's Party to join me once again in this great project, the quest to make a better and brighter future for Canada. Together, we can forge a path of prosperity, freedom, and security. Let us not be complacent. Rather, let us seize this moment. Our potential is great. Let us combine our efforts and dedication to overcome all obstacles in our way.
Where the dust won't fade, where the night runs low and the lights betray. Every step feels like I might fall. Truth cuts deep like a blade in the dark. My road ain't clean, it's a line I cross. I'm my own judge, I take my loss. Scars don't lie, they show my flame. I won't burn, I became the flame. They dragged me down, I broke their chains. Tried to break me, I stayed the same. This is my game, no rules, no chains. Walk through fire, I feel no pain. No borrowed name, no one to blame. I'm my own king in a world insane. This is my game, my wild road. I became myself through a heavy load. Where the dust won't fade, where the night runs low and the lights betray. Every step feels like I might fall. Truth cuts deep like a blade in the dark. My road ain't clean, it's a line I cross. I'm my own judge, I take my loss. Scars don't lie, they show my flame. I won't burn, I became the flame. They dragged me down, I broke their chains. Tried to break me, I stayed the same. This is my game, no rules, no chains. Walk through fire, I feel no pain. No borrowed name, no one to blame. I'm my own king in a world insane. This is my game, became myself through a heavy load. Cold.
5 years ago today, I was arrested, handcuffed, and put in jail for a non-crime, opposing authoritarian measures against COVID. Let me be clear. I'm not a criminal. I'm a Canadian who refused to bow down to tyranny. My crime was fighting for your fundamental rights and reject the health mandates not based on science that have destroyed lives and businesses. When the police officer arrested me, he asked me a question. Listen.
Afternoon, sir.
Yes, yes.
Park with the RCMP.
Yeah.
I can get you step out of the vehicle. I'm going to place you under arrest right now.
Yeah.
Right now, you're under arrest under the provincial health orders. Okay, so if you can just put your hands behind your back, face towards the vehicle. Okay, give me one hand here.
I'll get you in the vehicle, okay? Thank
you. The other hand. Do you have any weapons or anything on you, sir?
Weapon? No, no weapon. Only,
anything on you
only my words.
or anything like that?
Sorry?
Anything on you that's going to hurt me or anything like that?
No, no, anything will hurt you. Only my words, only my philosophy, only what I believe in.
Okay. All right, come on over this way. I'll explain a few things to you here right away.
People's Party candidates, like myself, use their words as weapons to fight for a freer country and to spark a revolution of common sense. Be part of this revolution by becoming a member of the People's Party at peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Be strong and free.
Raised where the dust won't fade, where the night runs low and the lights betray. Every step feels like I might fall. Truth cuts deep like a blade in the dark. My road ain't clean, it's a line I cross. I'm my own judge, I take my loss. Scars don't lie, they show my flame. I won't burn, I became the flame. They dragged me down, I broke their chains. Tried to break me, I stayed the same. This is my game, no rules, no chains. Walk through fire, I feel no pain. No borrowed name, no one to blame. I'm my own king in a world insane. This is my game, my wild road. I became myself through a heavy load. Cold wind.
Mic was off. Good morning, everyone. My name is EHSAN ARJMAND. I'm running candidate for People's Party of Canada in the riding of North Vancouver Capilano. Today, I have the honor to sit with the Honorable Maxime Bernier, leader of People's Party of Canada, and we are going to talk about why People's Party of Canada and if other parties can actually proposing an alternative to the status quo. I've had a couple of pretty good debates with the rest of candidates in North Vancouver Capilano. I think there is one coming up either on Thursday or Wednesday this week. Stay tuned. I will share all the details in future about that debate. Please come, participate, ask your questions. Also today at 7 p.m. PST, I'm going to have a live session, and it's about ask me any question that you may have. Please, if you are interested, let me know. I'll send you the link. It will be live with camera on and with your name and we are going to discuss, and I'm going to answer your question as much as I could. So I'll try to be direct, honest, and genuine with you guys and answer your question to the best of my capability and knowledge. So I am I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself until Max join me. I think he must be joining us anytime soon. I'm a mechanical engineer, graduated from SFU in mechatronics engineering. I've been working since then, since I graduated in 2009, and I've been always part of North Shore community. I actually moved from Iran directly to North Vancouver, so I know a lot about the community. Basically, if they ask me what would be the 3 top priorities for this community, I think if the first one would be with no question the traffic, the congestion that we are experiencing, which is horrible. And they ask me why. But one thing I just wanted to mention that MP cannot build the road and bridges for you. This is provincial. We are living in a confederation country. But what a federal candidate can do is to basically find the fundings to support the delayed projects to remove the ongoing traffic in North Vancouver. There are a lot of companies that are working and making a lot of money, billions of dollars of money off of North Shore coast. We have CSPAN, we have Neptune, we have all other ports that they are exporting the Canadian commodity, which I think what the best MP can do is just to work with Ottawa to make sure fundings are available for people in North Shore. I think the least Ottawa can do is just to give some of this money back to residents of North Shore, so basically they can fund these projects, these ongoing projects. I commute twice from North Shore to Burnaby, and I definitely feel the pain. So this is one thing that is extremely important. And the second thing is that, as we know, the traffic is a symptom of another major issue. I don't think it's fair to immigrants. I don't think it's fair to Canadian citizens to bring in millions of people in a decade without working on our infrastructure. The healthcare is collapsing, the bridges, the roads, they cannot answer the number of people that started living in North Vancouver. So it's a symptom of another major issue. So that's extremely important to note, that immigration must be controlled and must be happening when the infrastructure can meet the new population. If you bring in all of a sudden 1 million people in a city without even adding more hospitals, adding more roads, adding more bridges, so we see all these issues. And then smart people, they think in advance, they don't respond, they come up with preventative actions. That's kind of mentality I think is missing from Ottawa. This type of common sense, making decision is missing from Ottawa, and that's very clear. And this is only one of the issues that people in North Vancouver are facing, but I think it's very important to find the root cause and tackle the root cause with no apology and with bravery. And I'm sure People's Party of Canada can be advocate for that. One more thing that is very important to me before Max join in is that freedom. Freedom is important. my question is, when was the last time you were able to read a news from your Instagram or Facebook? If you give away your freedom easily, it's very, very tough and bloody to take it back. And you've got to take it back inch by inch. That's the truth. So so there is no justification, there is no excuse for government to limit the freedom that we have. It's already been compromised massively. But this is important, especially in Canada, that we have only $1 billion government-funded media, and a media that they want to have a control over the narratives, and they cannot stand anyone else, any other media to have that type of narratives. So that's important to make sure to repeal all the bills that they were intended to compromise the freedom. That's one more important, extremely important thing. To the freedom, we need to hold the politicians accountable, to ask them questions. So one of the, I think, biggest difference between People's Party of Canada and the rest of parties is that we want to end funding of CBC. Basically, if a government pays a media, and media is at the mercy of government, so in order for them to keep their job, they must go with government's narrative. As simple as that. CBC have done a great job in the past for creating the culture for sports, but we've seen in many cases that they go with government's narrative, although it could be destructive for the whole country as a whole. And basically, they did more damage than good. So it's very important that media, they should be independent from government, and their role is to hold the governments accountable, to hold the politicians accountable. That's the very, very important part that we are missing. Another important thing, I think, what makes People's Party of Canada very different than other parties is that we know we are all angry with Donald Trump, how he's been treating Canadians, and we all on the same page. But this is a different philosophy that People's Party of Canada is advocating, is that basically we cannot vote President Trump out of office. There are certain things we have control over, and there are certain things we don't have control over. So I think the smart way is to focus more and work harder more on something that we have control on. Actually, I think that was the whole negotiation process that's been happening made us think about to revisit or what we are having in home. Like I had no idea that we have a lot of interprovincial barriers when it comes to trade. I had no idea selling wine in Washington State from Alberta is easier to sell it in BC. I had no idea that our supply management is basically a cartel, like a certain group of people that they are given this opportunity exclusively, and they can set artificial prices for the essentials of Canadian people, like egg, like chicken, and it's only for certain type of people. So so all these negotiation, and I'm the guy looking at the glass half full. I think all the whole confrontation with Donald Trump made us revisit what's going on in Canada. I think we can start in home. We can start removing all these interprovincial barriers, and at the same time try to come up with a good negotiation with President Trump. One more thing is that I always mention that governments, they come and go, presidents, prime ministers, they come and go, but these two countries will always remain. The largest border that we are sharing with the United States always remain. So it's very important to make sure that this temporary tension wouldn't cause a permanent problem with the relationship between these two nations that they're sharing a lot. I don't know. I haven't seen any two nations closer than United States and Canada. And this is important. This is important that we don't want to get engaged in the fake patriotic games started with elbows up, booing American national anthem. I think we should be reasonable. We should bring in adults and grown-ups in the room. We should leave our emotions on the side and start thinking logically what happened, what were the root causes of all these issues. And I think one of the most important things that Donald Trump has a problem with in Canada is foreign interference. We have foreign interference issue in Canada that nobody wants to talk about it. So I'm going to contact Maxime to see if he's available, if he's going to join us. He was supposed to be here about almost 5-10 minutes ago. I just want to see everything is okay. If he has any problem with, stay with me.
I was raised where the dust won't fade, where the night runs law and the lights betray. Every step feels like I might fall. Truth cuts deep like a blade in the dark. My road ain't clean, it's a line I cross. I'm my own judge, I take my loss. Scars don't lie, they show my flame. I won't burn, I became the flame. They dragged me down, I broke their chains. Tried to break me, I stayed the same. This is my game, no rules, no chains. Walk through fire, I feel no pain. No borrowed name, no one to blame. I'm my own king in a world insane. This is my game, my wild road. I became myself through a heavy load. Won't fade where the night runs law and the lights betray. Every step feels like I might fall. Truth cuts deep like a blade in the dark. My road ain't clean, it's a line I cross. I'm my own judge, I take my loss. Scars don't lie, they show my flame. I won't burn, I became the flame. They dragged me down, I broke their chains. Tried to break me, I stayed the same. This is my game, no rules, no chains. Walk through fire, I feel no pain. No borrowed name, no one to blame. I'm my own king in a world insane. This is my game, my wild road. I became myself through a heavy load.
So Max, I hope he's going to join us very soon. For some reason, he's a bit late. I'm going to ask him why. But I want to talk about one more thing that it always coming up during my discussion with my constituents and with in the debates. It's about the environment. is a climate change. I was actually in a debate a couple of days ago, and that I believe most of people in the room, they were supporter of Green Party or any other party, that they have extreme passion about the ideology of climate change. Well, they asked me about that, and in the beginning, I mentioned that some answers that I may give them to you. They may not sit well with you, but this is just how I feel and how I think, how I believe. The problem is, as of almost 20 years ago, I remember Al Gore was running for presidency after Bill Clinton, and then he was the champion of this climate. Back then it was, I think, global warming, and it became global cooling at some point and became climate change recently. So basically he said 20 years ago, after 10 years, there would be no ice in North Pole in the whole world. And then, so basically 10 years ago, we shouldn't have any ice in North Pole, which I think didn't turn out to be true. And they kept repeating these type of narratives. They kept propagating this kind of sense of urgency, and they turned the whole climate change, global warming, global cooling into a new ideology, to the point that people cannot even talk about it anymore. It's like when you want to talk about it and say, oh, there are some other experts that are actually suggesting that CO2 is actually essential for our Earth, and it's actually needed. But then they become extremely offensive. They don't want to even listen to you. So I think that's the problem. I don't have any problem if you think differently than I am, but the fact that you don't want to even talk about anything, and it becomes that become part of your identity, that's a problem. And I know how does it work when something turns into a radical ideology. So I think what I'm trying to propose is that, first of all, it's not a state of emergency. It's not a state of emergency, as Greta mentioned. Oh, okay, my campaign manager is coming now. He's working on his Payman. Payman is the best campaign manager, really. He's doing amazing. Hey, Payman.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, man. I guess you fell out of the good graces of the illustrious party leader, Maxime Bernier. He's
That's
not
so
showing
true.
up.
It's the showing up. That's right.
Yeah, you got to get your numbers up, otherwise he won't come on, man. You got to do more door knocking.
Okay, I will. I think I should.
Yeah,
So-
I was watching a bit of your what do you call it? Your podcast. It's hard when you're expecting a guest and the guest doesn't show up and you have to start talking.
I have to start talking. That's true. That's so true. Yeah. So how have you been, Payman?
I've been pretty
What's
good.
next? What's next for us? We have almost a week to go, right?
We got another week. You have there's another debate coming up. Well, first of all, you have an interview with that article, Studio X, I think it's called, Studio X News, and they rescheduled. It was supposed to be yesterday, so that's one to look forward to.
Yeah. So Max texted me that he had a very bad connection. He tried multiple times, but he's working on it.
All right. Well, I'm the poor man's Maxime Bernier. I'll keep the seat warm until he comes.
Okay.
What else do we got? You have the debate coming up.
I have a debate coming up this. In the first debate, it went very well. I think I met with other candidates. We talked about many things. It was very respectful, although we had a lot of differences of opinion. One thing I noticed was that the real different answers, and actually, you know what happened? Some some teenage guys, they came up to me and they said, "Oh, these are very interesting. That what you're saying and everything. Everybody else is almost saying the same thing, but all with different wording and different narratives. But the position of People's Party is different than the rest of the party." I think there is a phone call from. Okay. So, Payman, can you continue? I need to answer this.
Sure. Yeah. So when I was running, my election campaign was far more ruthless than the one. I'm not bragging, but mine was a general election, which EHSAN ran in as well. But in my riding, like I think West Vancouver, they're movers and shakers, and they really need it. And they dumped a whole bunch of money into the Liberal candidate, Patrick Weiler. The Conservative candidate, I never stood a chance. Like everybody hated what I was saying, and it's a PPC, you're coming out from behind. The Conservative candidate wasn't as strong. Granted, it's hard to overcome the orange man bad tactic, but the Liberal Party is very ruthless. So the Patrick Weiler had a, I don't know, friend, whatever she was, and she hit the Conservative Party candidate with an abortion question, and he didn't answer it well. And then what they do is they plant people in the audience, they boo you. The Green Party candidate, they did this with me, where she put all these like fat lesbian feminists in the front, and she started talking about how politics is sexist and all men in Canada are, they're prejudicial. And I said, no, like people in Canada, men and women, they're all good. It doesn't matter. I don't buy into this whole, hatred. And they tried to boo me. But this is a strategy, right? And unfortunately, you have to embrace it. It is what it is. So for the People's Party, if you're listening, you're gonna have to you got to play dirty as well. Like this whole Marquess of Queensberry rules, win better to lose nobly than win ugly. Well, you'll just lose. So you have to bring people in and bring like 5-10 PPC candidates and ask them tough questions. Like explain to me how you think that taxing the working class and middle class is going to change the temperature. Give me the science behind that. Like press them on the science, because they don't have science on their side. And in politics, you're not supposed to talk science, because the moment you do, you lose the audience. Ask more abstract questions like, where do you want to go? What's your policy on gun violence? It seems like the Liberals, they just do this to scare people into voting for them. But that's one place where we're weak, and I think we need to work on that. What other things? EHSAN, he's done 2 debates now. One of them was the North Vancouver Chamber. So Chamber is a Chamber of Commerce. They're supposed to be business oriented, and they were a little bit more sane, a little bit more rational. And I advise everybody to go watch it. There's an exact moment. Oh, Max is here. I'm going to step down. Hello, Max.
Hey, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. EHSAN, yes. You can drop me down.
Payman, stay with us. That's okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I had internet connection that was bad, but now everything is okay. So I'm very pleased to be with you.
Thank you so much for joining me, Max. It's good. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, sorry I wasn't able to be in BC, but anyway, we can have a good discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely. Max, I want you to speak with my constituents. Why PPC? Simple, and I want to understand.
Yeah, so thank you for asking. I think it's very a good question. Why voting for the People's Party of Canada during that by-election and voting for you? I believe it is important to send a strong message after that by-election on August 31st. Why? Because you won't change the government. That it's a by-election. It's not voting for a new government. You're voting for somebody that will represent you in Parliament in Ottawa. And if you're fed up with the situation, if you think that the inflation is, eating you alive and there's too much inflation, we need to fight that. More specifically, food inflation. We have the solution at the People's Party. As you know, we are the only party that will abolish the supply management cartel, where Canadians are paying twice the price for milk, poultry, and eggs. And you need somebody that will be in Parliament and will have that discussion and fight for you and bring these new discussion, speaking about the real issues that we have here in our country. And if you look at the PPC and our platform and our candidates across these three by-elections, one in Quebec, one in Ontario, and this one in BC, they're fighting for you, they're ready. And I hope that people will give support to our PPC candidates all across the country, because it's the great way to send that message to the Conservative and the Liberals that, you know, enough is enough. You want real changes. You want to be able to live in a country where you'll have real prosperity, not growth below 1%. And with the inflation, we are now in a stagflation, you know, stagnation with inflation. And actually, the only way to solve that is to be serious, fiscally responsible, and we are not. So the People's Party, our candidates, and in our platform, we want to lower taxes to everybody after balancing the budget and cutting all these expenses that are not, you know, pro-Canada or pro-Canadians. So I think there's a lot of good reason to support you and to support our PPC candidates in that by-election in Quebec and in Ontario. And if they want to know more also, they can just speak to you and go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, and they will have all the information over there. It's a nice way to express your frustration, the August 31st, frustration with the mainstream political parties. And let's do that. Let's start that common sense revolution in Ottawa by supporting your PPC candidate.
Right. So, Max, I think one of the most important topics always brought up in my discussion with my constituents is Donald Trump and all the tariffs that are happening in between these two countries. What's the People's Party's position? What's the most logical way to go about this issue?
You know, we cannot change President Trump is there, is elected for another 2 years. And the best way to deal with that is to be sure that we'll have a more productive economy and, you know, more investment in our country, because you need investment to have economic growth. And we don't have a lot of investment right now because of our taxation system. So I saw what Carney did yesterday. With counter tariffs. That's not the solution. People must understand that counter tariffs are not a weapon against the US. They are a tax on Canadians. And Carney said that he will tax Canadians another $28 billion. So that's not the way to answer these tariffs, because the tariffs that Trump is imposing, it's hurting Americans. Yes, it will be harder for Canadians corporation to export in the US because of these tariffs. Their products will be less competitive, but at the end, it will be American consumers who are paying and who will pay these tariffs. So we cannot win a trade war with the US. And it's sad that, you know, Trump is imposing these tariffs on us. But the best way is to, you know, abolishing the capital gains tax, to be sure that entrepreneurs and Canadians will have more of their income in their pockets, balancing the budget in 1 year by cutting $65 billion. And we are able to do that. Lowering taxes to businesses with a flat tax on business at 10%, lowering taxes to Canadians, deregulations, being sure that we can exploit our natural resources without any climate change regulations. So we can do a lot, being sure that we have a real free trade agreement across our country. And the federal government can give incentives to provinces for them to let go their trade barriers. And the only way to do that is, you know, at the next budget, they can say, I'll give you, you know, $50 million if you abolish all your trade barriers. You can give monetary incentives to provinces to do that. So let's be serious. Let's have a smaller government in Ottawa that will respect taxpayers and respect our constitution. So that's the only way to have growth in this country and to create a bigger economic growth, not less than 1% like we have. We need a more growth, and if we have more growth, it will be great for Canadians and Canadian businesses. So I'm against, and the People's Party is against these counter tariffs. And because what we are doing right now, it's escalating. We are escalating that, and we don't know what would be the reaction of President Trump next week. He may impose more tariffs. So let's stop that and just work here in Canada what we can control, and being sure that we will attract more investment in our country to create that growth that we need.
Yeah. So dependency of Americans to Canadian economy is teeny tiny, but we have like almost 72% of our economy depends on the United States. So that's the type of situation that we are dealing with. But my question is, who is going to be the winner of these counter tariffs? So Ottawa is going to make a lot more money because of that. That's right. And at the expense
Absolutely.
of Iranian, at the expense of Canadian people. So the Canadians, they are the major loser of the whole tension between Canadians and American government. Is that true?
Yes, they are. The big winner of that will be the Canadian government because they will raise more taxes. And so, but the big loser in all that is Canadians and Americans also. So I don't think, if I don't believe that these tariffs will go on for years and years. I understand that there's a midterm election this November in the US. We'll see what President Trump will do. But I hope that these tariffs won't be there for a couple of years. But anyway, I looked at a study that was done, and the impact of not having a free trade agreement with the US will be on our economy, a loss of 1% growth. So it's not 5%. We can do something if we are serious in Canada to counter these tariffs, not by retaliation and more tariffs, but by more economic policies in Canada. Now we have a big socialist government in Ottawa that is telling businesses and telling us what we can do or what we cannot do and taxing us. So as you know, it's a little bit sad that I saw a study that 42% of all Canadians in their global income every year, they're putting 42% of their global income for taxes, municipal tax, provincial tax, federal tax, GST, all these taxes. And, they're spending 36% of their income in food, clothing, and housing. So it is crazy. We need to stop that. But Polyev and Carney won't speak about that. They want to buy votes with money that we don't have, and they don't want to solve the challenges that we have.
That's right. Pema, do you have any question?
Yeah, Max, I remember a year and a half ago now when the tariffs dropped, you wrote a fantastic X post telling Carney or Trudeau how to respond to it. Can you just speak to that?
Yes, at that time, that was during the electoral campaign. And I must say that I was very disappointed about that campaign because we at the People's Party, we wanted to have a real debate on the real issues, not only the economy and the trade relationship with the US, but the immigration file. And that campaign, that electoral campaign was for me more like a referendum on who will be the best one to deal with President Trump. Polyev or Carney. And at that time, Carney said, we will impose counter tariff, and they did it. And Polyev was okay with that. So, but in that piece during that time, I said what I just said, and imposing counter tariffs, it's a new tax that you impose on Canadians. And the good news about that, it's, these tariffs were in force for about a year or less. And after that, Carney realized that he was taxing Canadians. So can you imagine, with the inflation that we have in our country right now, the federal government is telling us that it's around 2%, but everybody knows that the real inflation is about 6%. If you count everything, housing, renting, and also the food prices, everything is going up. So it's more the real inflation, about 6%. And now with these counter tariffs and what they did also during the last elections, it's another tax that they are imposing. It will increase the inflation that we have in this country. So yeah, I was the first one, and people were telling us and our candidates at that time, you need to be stronger against the U.S. You're not a real nationalist because you are not defending Canadians. But it's not defending Canadians imposing tariffs on Canadians. And I hope that more Canadians can understand that we need to do a little bit more economic education. But we'll see. Now Carney and Polyev are saying the same thing that they said during the campaign. And if they're serious, because it was important, I was campaigning last week here in Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. There's another by-election over there. And all the questions that I had by the journalists was the cartel in supply management, because the candidates for the Liberal and the candidate for the Conservatives are both coming from that cartel. They're former dairy producers. And that was huge. And I was very happy that journalists asked me the right questions about the prices that we are paying, artificially high prices for milk, poultry, and eggs, and more people understand that. So, and we had that discussion when I was in Chicoutimi. But Polyev and Carney, they don't want to abolish the cartel, but they're saying that they're doing everything to fight food inflation. But we know that they don't do anything, because we must abolish that cartel, not only to have a good deal with President Trump, but for Canadian consumers, we need to do that. But we are not. And so now what they're doing is the worst solutions by going ahead with these retaliation tariffs. For me, I hope that more Canadians will understand that before August 31st, to be able to vote for our candidates.
That's right. Pema, if there is no any follow-up question, I want to change the topic. Max, there is one big problem that we know we have. That's the elephant in the room, and that's the foreign interference in Canada. From one of the reports, I think from one RCMP member, he said money laundering is a third industry in Canada. That's crazy. Like almost $40 billion. I don't remember the number correctly. But what's the position of People's Party on foreign interference in Canada, foreign presence and operations, all the cartels from all around the world, China, India, Islamic Republic, all of this? What would you say?
Yes, we must ask the question first. Why are they here? And why, they're here in Canada because we are not tough on crime, and it's easier for them to come here. And we need to change that. But we have also the Supreme Court of Canada. I remember when I was a Conservative member of Parliament from both under Harper for 13 years, we were able to pass a very good legislation, tough on crime, with minimum sentences on couple of crimes. But the Supreme Court of Canada said, no, you don't have the right to do that. That legislation is unconstitutional. But we need to go back to that. We need to be tough on crime, and the way to be sure that the Supreme Court of Canada won't be able to do that anymore. In our Constitution, we have the non-understanding clause. It's a clause that is saying non-understanding what the Supreme Court of Canada can say. That legislation would be enforced for 5 years, and we need to use that because the judges are writing our legislations, and they're supposed to be there to interpret our legislation and not writing a new legislation. But these woke judges, they're doing that. So the solution for money laundering, these crimes, just be tough on crime. And second, if it's a non-Canadians who's doing that, you need to deport them. And we need to have that deportation of all illegals and criminals. But we are not doing that. Actually, I was happy to see that for the international students from India, who wants to stay in Canada after their diploma, and they don't want to respect the contract that we signed with them. You are here temporary for studying, and after that you go back to your country of origin. They didn't want to do that, but I understand that Immigration Canada is starting to investigate to try to deport them. And that's why I said, we don't need a Department of Immigration in Ottawa because we want to have a moratorium on immigration. We need to have a Department of Deportation, and all these civil servants must be there to deport these illegals. So yes, being tough on crime with minimum sentences and putting the right person to investigate that, giving more money to the RCMP and being sure that also when it's time to have new judges, that these new judges will apply the law and not write a new law in their decision.
That's very important.
Yeah.
Max, Toyban, you have a question? Go ahead. No? So you were in Alberta last week, speaking with Albertans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, tell me about that. How did that go? So yeah.
Yes, that was first very fun. That was a nice tour. I'm supposed to do another tour over there. Canadians don't understand. These Albertans are serious about separation. And they wanted the title of the tour was Lessons from Quebec with the leader of the PPC. So I had a lot of questions about, okay, what will happen after a yes and the transition period and all that. But I told them this referendum that you will have on October 19, it is not on secession. The conservatives, the liberals are lying to you and the mainstream media when they're saying, a vote for starting the process to have a binding referendum later on secession. It's secession, and they're saying you won't have your pension anymore. But the question is not a question like, do you want Alberta to be a new nation? Yes or no? That's not the question for October 19. It's a question with two parts. The first part is, do you want Alberta to stay a province in Canada? What that means is, do you want Alberta to stay like it is? And that's the status quo. So Ottawa won't change anything. They will continue to interfere in provincial jurisdictions. Ottawa won't give you your autonomy. The other part of the question is, do you want the provincial government to start the process for a binding referendum on secession later? And I told them, you must vote for that, because you will give to Danielle Smith bargaining power. She'll be able after that to go and sit with Carney and tell Carney, if you don't give us our autonomy in line with the constitutions, the 1867 Constitution, if we don't have more autonomy, we will have a referendum on the secession. So there's no risk for an Albertans who believe in Canada. There's no risk there, and that's why we are supporting that, because we want to have that constitutional crisis that will shake the tree in Ottawa and be sure that the conservative and the liberal will go back to our constitution and respect our constitutions. So for Albertans, there's no risk voting for start the process, and if they're not independentists, they will have the opportunity to vote against a referendum on secession later. So, and that's why I believe now in the polls in Alberta, the people who are with the start the process, they're at 30% in the polls right now. So that's not too bad. But I was telling them, you want to know the experience from Quebec, what happened in 1995, in 1980, we had 2 referendums in Quebec. I told them I would speak about that. But first, I want you to understand that's not a referendum on the secession. You know, on October 28th, you will still be a province of Canada, but your premier will have more bargaining power if you vote to start the process. So I think they understand that, and that's why that movement is growing. And we'll see, because if the negotiations are successful and Ottawa is going back to the Constitution of 1867, that will be more autonomy, not only for Alberta, for Quebec, for Ontario. If what will be good for Alberta will be good for every province. So that will be a win-win, and we may be able to have our radical decentralizations that we want and we need.
Mhm. So I have one question that's really is concerning to people in British Columbia about DRIPA. You know, there is a lot of concerns right now that the private ownership of their homes is in danger. What can MP do really to just stop this madness?
Yeah, but when you'll be elected, when you'll be in parliament, you'll be able to speak about it. You'll have more visibility because the mainstream media will be in a position to cover what you're saying. And so our position is clear. We will withdraw from the UN accord on that. The federal government. So we will start to advocate that in Ottawa, to inform Canadians and educate Canadians about that. You know, there's no risk for our federal government to withdraw from that. And, you know, that's not a right that the First Nation have. The First Nation need to negotiate with Ottawa, not by using the UN agreement. No. So you can do that. The federal government can do that, and that will secure property rights in British Columbia. And, you know, tell them that, you know, if you're elected, you will fight for them to be sure to preserve property rights in BC. But my understanding of that is the provincial government over there and the federal government are a little bit, you know, they don't know what to do because they thought that, you know, oh yeah, everything would be okay. But the population in BC did very great because they stood up and they said, enough is enough. Our property rights is at risk. So now I believe that the federal government is more listening to people, but they need to send a strong message. And I think the first PPC candidate elected, that will be a strong message. You know, your people living in your riding will make history by putting you there, and everybody will speak about that. And that's why you, as the new MP over there, you'll have a lot of visibility and try to engage the conservatives and the liberals in the real debates and the real issues. So that's why they don't have anything to risk by voting People's Party of Canada.
Especially when we know that how easily conservatives, they cross the floor and all of a sudden they become liberal. So I had a lot of discussion with my constituents about, like, the argument was, oh, we don't want to split the vote. But I know after these the reality after what they saw in Parliament, I don't think that's even the case anymore. Payman, go ahead. If you have anything, I'm going to wrap it up after your question.
No, let's hear what Max has to say about the floor crossings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I must say I was a conservative, and I did wrote a tweet about that. And some people, and I said, that is a proof that is the uni party. If you have 4 MPs who are able to cross the floor, and they will vote for all the legislations that the federal government will put forward in Parliament, it is showing me that there's no split the vote if you vote for the People's Party, because our policies are so different if you compare that with the conservative. So they're a uni party. But when I said that on Twitter, some people said, Bernier, you did it yourself. You resigned from the Conservative Party of Canada, and you did almost the same. But that was not the same. First, I must say that today, that's the 8th anniversary of when I did my press conference to resign as a conservative. And I believe that was the best political decision that I took 8 years ago. But when I resigned, it was a couple of months before the general election, and I did not cross the floor for another party. I resigned. I didn't want to resign from my seat because I knew that the next election would be in a couple of months, and I know how much expensive it is by elections. So I decided to stay as an independent until the election. And after that, I was a candidate for the People's Party. And people in my riding at that time said, no, we will vote for the Conservative again. But I did not cross the floor for another party. I decided to sit as an independent, and I decided to stay in Parliament, not to have a by-election and a couple of months later a general election. I said, I will wait. At the general election, I'll be a PPC candidate, and people in my riding will be able to vote if they want me as a PPC candidate or if they want to go with the Conservative. And they decided that they wanted to go with the Conservative. So that's very different. But what they're doing, they're showing these MPs who are crossing the floor, they're showing us that, it's a uni party.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Payman, go ahead.
I guess I have a general question for you, Max. What do you think Carney's goal is? Because he's picking a fight with the most powerful country in the world. It's on our border, and he's abandoning the climate targets. This guy's a climate czar. He's putting in a pipeline. What's going on?
I believe that is doing politics. But first, we must say, Payman, you're right about that, because I've read his book. If you read the book that he wrote a year before the election, this guy is a globalist, is a radical environmentalist, and now, is having a new deal with Daniel Smith for pipelines, and is ready to do some compromise on his philosophy on climate change. For us, that's a good thing. That's the beginning, but that's not enough. But I believe he's doing that because now he's enjoying to be prime minister. He's enjoying to be in power, and he's doing politics by survey and focus group. Just the fact that he decided to walk away and not sign that deal and putting counter tariff. They did some polls, and Canadians are saying, oh, yes, and we are so mad that we need to do something. And instead of telling Canadians, counter tariff, it is not a weapons, it is not against the US, it's against us. He doesn't want to do that step. He's looking at the poll and said, okay, I will impose counter tariff. And he's doing the same thing with the environment now. He's looking at the polls and he's saying, I must be a little bit more in the middle with my policies if I want to stay. And I believe that is going also a little bit to the middle right and taking some ideas from Polyev. And that's why it's very difficult from Polyev. He can go further right on our side, but he won't do that because he wants to have the media a little bit more on his side, knowing that the media, the mainstream media like CBC, CTV, are more, more liberals. So he tried to please them a little bit. So for Polyev, it's a little bit more difficult. And for Carney, is now, a pragmatic, if I can express myself, a more pragmatic politicians than what he wrote before the election. But the decision that he took for not signing that deal and imposing counter tariffs, it's a bad one for Canadians. And what he's doing on the environment with Danielle Smith, it's a good first step. But what it's not good about that is forcing Albertans and to spend money to do the carbon capture. But it's very costly. It would be costly. They will have to give subsidies. It will be at the end taxpayers who will have to pay for that. But we don't need to capture CO2 because CO2 is not a pollutant. So on that, is doing what he wrote in his book. But we need to do more to push them on the right side and telling them that there's no climate emergency. We need to tell them, to Carney and to Polyev. But the time is on our side. You look at the people and not the people, but the populist party in Europe. In France, with Marine Le Pen, 35 years ago, she was at 2%, 2 to 5%. And she will be the next president. She's first in the polls. Look at in UK with Nigel Farage, and also the Restore Party, and in also Germany, the populist party are doing very well, first or second. And we created the People's Party 8 years ago. We are still in the beginning, but I believe that the next election in 3 years, people will, I believe, look at the real alternative, and it may be our chance to have a couple of candidates elected and start that common sense populist revolution in Ottawa. The time is on our side, but when I'm saying that, it's a little bit also sad for us as individuals because we may be near more in debt. We'll have a bigger debt. We'll have more inflation. We won't have growth. It would be more difficult for Canadians. But if it's more difficult, they may be more ready to look at the real alternatives. And when they will look at us, I hope they will say, okay, if we want a real changes, let's support the People's Party. And if you look at our policies individually on immigration, more than 60% are saying, yes, we need a pause. On the balancing the budget, between 40% and 50% are in favor of our policies. If you took the big majority of our policies on our website and you do survey on that, our position is very popular. I'm looking at public survey. It's very popular, but they don't make the link between the policy and the People's Party. So we need to do a better job. And I just want to let you know that in September, we do a revamp, and we'll try also to be more active on TikTok, Instagram. We were active during the last election, but not consistently. And that's the secret. You need to be there. You need to be there every day, regularly, and to grow your viewers. And we'll put more energy to be more effective in the beginning of September. So in 3 weeks, 2 weeks on social media, because we understand that our growth, our visibility won't be with the mainstream media. It will be with social media, and we need to be better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Max, how do you see the future of the other parties?
But I believe the Green Party of Canada, I think it would be tough for them to re-elect their MPs. It would be more difficult because we'll be in a stagflation. And you don't like Carney right now. He's doing compromise on his philosophy on environment to try to create more economic growth and more policies in favor of economic growth, because that's a reality. So it may be difficult for the Green Party, and for the Conservative. There's a lot of people who are not happy with Polyev right now, but for me, it's not that important. For me, if Polyev is 10 points behind Carney a year before the election, that he will be in trouble, and he may have a push. People, when I'm in Ontario, people are telling me that Doug Ford may be interested. When I was in Alberta, some Albertans were telling me maybe Danielle Smith, after that mandate, will try also to run at the federal level, or Jason Kenney. So you have names right now, but I believe that Polyev will be able to stay at least 1 year before the election, and that's the most important. And for them, Polyev will need to win that election. And if they can see in polls and focus group that Polyev is not winning, that may be his leadership may be in danger before the election.
That's true. That's all the numbers and statistics shows he's not doing really well.
Yeah, the worst. Yeah, the worst one is who do you prefer as prime minister? And I think he has only 10 or 15% support. It's very, very low. So we'll see what he will do.
And he's desperately trying to somehow get Conservatives elected in this election. He's doing anything he could. Like I can see he's desperately trying hard. Yeah.
Yeah, but also I must say that Carney did a good move, because, as you know, there's 4 more by-elections, and he only declared 3 by-elections. But he did that, I believe, because he wants to show that he's able to win all these 3. And I was in Chicoutimi, and it is between the Bloc Québécois and the Liberals. So, and the one in Toronto, maybe it will be easier for him to win that. And I don't know the one in BC, but I think his guess by calling these 3 by-elections is, if I can have 3 strong that I can win, that will help me to keep my majority, but also to show that Polyev is not able to win any seat. And after that, for the 4 other by-elections that he will have to call, I believe that Polyev will be able to win some of them.
That's right. Yeah, I can see they're doing a very extravagant campaign in North Vancouver, and they're trying everything they could to somehow, basically to get the vote of. I don't even want to talk about what they're doing here in North Vancouver. We have a large population of Iranian Canadian in North Vancouver, very large, and they're basically they can determine the result of this election as well, by-election. Yeah. So, Payman, I think it's been almost an hour. If you don't have anything else, let's wrap it up, and if you have Max, he wants to add something else, let's just hear him out.
Yeah, I want to thank Payment and you. You're doing live, you're out there, you're very active on social media. Payment, during the last election, you take some of your time to have interviews with our candidates, being sure that they would be. That was very useful, and I want to thank you for that.
He's the best campaign manager. He's amazing.
I'm pretty sure you have a good guy with you, and so. Now my message to our people is, stay tuned in September. We are spending some money to have a better system, a better website, better tools for our riding association that we have. And I believe that everything will be launched at the end of September. And we have Evie that is great. She's working on that. She's the project manager. But there's a small team, and for me, I have a little bit more work to do. with more videos, and so we try to plan that to be more efficient. But I strongly believe that the next election will be our future. I believe that we'll be able to have a couple of candidates elected. You know, I'm looking what's happening in France, and I did speak with a person with Marine Le Pen, the leader of the not Front National, the Rassemblement National, and you know, they were very encouraging about what we must do, and they said, you know, be patient. The time will come. You're there, and by having the same platform at every election, we are gaining credibility, because people would be able to go back and say, these people, the People's Party candidates, you know, what they're saying for years, they must believe in that. I'm pretty sure that they will put that in force when they'll be elected. And the answer is yes, we'll do that. So let's build our credibility, and at the same time being more active. But what I was saying in the beginning is, Payman, you did a good job, and you're still doing a good job by you being yourself, and, you know, explaining what's happening in this country to your followers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very
So
much for your time.
have a nice campaign. There's only a week now.
Yeah.
And so sorry that I cannot be with you. I was supposed to be in Alberta this week, this Monday, and to do another tour over there, and from Alberta going to BC, but they did postpone that trip for, I think, the second week of September. But anyway, when I'll be in Alberta, I'll be sure, you know, to go in BC and meet our people over there.
Absolutely. With my pleasure. Your
Thank
pleasure,
you.
man.
So have a nice afternoon, guys. Thank you again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So the man finally, well, not finally, but thankfully he showed up, and that was a good interview.
That was a great interview, Payman. And I just want to appreciate all you've been doing, supporting me during this campaign. I mean, everything is very organized. Everything is not being done nicely. That's been a great experience. It's been a very fun ride.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. So if you have anything else to add, let me know, or just let's wrap it up.
No, I mean, we can wrap it up. It's been 1 hour. There's a storm coming in, so my internet's going to die soon.
All right. In Florida?
Yeah.
All right. Take care, man. You're beautiful.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Raised where the dust won't fade, where the night runs long and the lights betray. Every step feels like I might fall. Truth cuts deep like a blade in the dark. My road ain't clean, it's a line I cross. I'm my own judge, I take my loss. Scars don't lie, they show my flame. I won't burn, I became the flame. They dragged me down, I broke their chains. Tried to break me, I stayed the same.